Where tonight, once again, the eyes have it. I Spy with my little eye, the illustrious Sandy Toksvig. The indubitable Jimmy Carr. The incorrigible Lee Mack. And the hilarious Alan Davis. I hear with my little ear their buzzers. Sandy goes.
Aye, aye.
Jimmy goes.
Oi, oi!
Lee goes.
Aye, 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 aye!
And Alan goes.
I've got a lovely bunch of
Yes. Now, don't forget your nobody knows joker. Yes.
Nobody knows.
That's the one, like that. There is a question tonight to which the real answer is nobody knows. And if you can predict which that question is and wave your banner, then you'll get points. And so, to question question one. No, I was right the first time. What's the difference between an eye and an eye? Have you heard of an eye? It's a very useful word in Scrabble. A-I.
It's yes. Oh, yes, that's a yes, a sloth.
A sloth, exactly. But what about an eye?
2 sloths.
All right, so we've got the eye. Where does the eye live, this sloth? Where does it...
In a tree.
Yeah, in which part of the world would you expect to find it?
South America.
South America is the right answer. They're wonderful things. They look like humans dressed in a sloth costume, as a matter of fact. They're really...
Yeah, but to be fair, you could say that about any animal, couldn't you?
No, but
a giraffe looks like a human dressed in a giraffe costume.
You look at a picture, of an eye, and I think you'll see what I mean. That does look like a person in a costume.
It looks like he's climbing up a tree, which looks like a man dressed as a tree.
He also looks like he's made of that stuff they used to make dish mops out of, doesn't he?
Their heads are very disproportionate, aren't they?
They are, and they live up to their name. They're very lazy. They spend most of their time up. They only come down to defecate, in fact.
Sorry, they come down from a tree to defecate?
Yes.
Surely the whole benefit of living in a tree is you can just
poo on whomever you like.
Maybe they've got a downstairs toilet.
Yes.
I thought that,
Once you've had it put in, you want to use it, don't
absolutely.
you?
Also, very unusually for mammals, they need to bask in the sun to warm up their metabolism. So that's the eye. We've got the eye, but tell me about the eye.
Is the I spelt the same as the I? Well,
no.
Obviously, there's more letters.
It's A-Y-E-A-Y-E.
That's just...
I happen to have been and seen one. Very few people on Earth have, because it's one of the most endangered species.
Is it a Geordie version of that?
No, that's the Y-I.
Oh, wow. Are we in the same part of the world?
We're not in the same part of the world.
Is it a sloth?
An eye. It's not a sloth. It's more closely related to us. It's a primate.
Primate.
But it's not an ape or a monkey. So what other kinds of...
Is it the
primate are they
orangutan?
that aren't...
Lemur?
Lemur. It's a lemur. Therefore, it must come from only one place on Earth.
Oh!
Bradford. It looks like someone's put some water on a gremlin.
Yeah. That's exactly right, which you know you mustn't do.
Never do that, ever.
I would think that the animal on the left has an easier job getting a well-fitting hat.
and a girlfriend.
Yes.
That may be why the eye is so endangered.
It's Madagascar.
Madagascar is the only place you get lemurs. You can't actually see in that photograph, but they have the most extraordinary middle finger, which is fully extended. It looks like a dried twig. It's really unusual. They tap with their finger on the barks of trees and bring out little worms and grubs, which they catch and eat off their fingers. It's like a piece of cutlery.
So nature has designed them to eat hula hoops?
Basically.
That's extraordinary.
Yes, a zoologist would say they fill the niche that woodpeckers fill in other environments.
But there are superstitions, are there not, about them, that if you pardon me if I did this to you, or did this, and if one of those did that to you, that would be...
That's right. It's called the fada, which is the Malgache taboo system of the local people, and unfortunately they regard them, because they're nocturnal creatures, and because they look so weird, I suppose, they regard them as a curse, and they have a habit of killing them if they see them.
It does look like a really bad hair transplant, doesn't it?
It does.
Really...
Well, I'm not surprised people kill them. As well, the idea that, I mean, never mind superstition, but if you walk across the street doing that, you're going to get... people are going to go, well, I could take him on.
Yeah.
And also, I'm not surprised they're endangered, because they're clearly not mating, are they? They're looking at each other and going, I'd rather not. Might nip over to get the eye.
It is dark, remember?
All the ugly ones come out in the dark.
They do, don't they?
That's how Jimmy mates. I'm happy to do it, love, but it's going to have to be with the lights off.
Can't believe your wife told you that story. I even did that in a northern accent.
It's like watching two 1970 northern comics having a row. Only because your wife said. Yeah, well, your wife doesn't exist. You what?
They do that on the streets of New York with Your Mama, don't they?
Yeah.
There's a whole series
They
of...
do what with my mama?
Well,
Why don't you say one's mama?
one's mama,
Yeah.
in fact.
I'd love you to do that in the streets of New York.
One's
Stephen.
mama?
Oh, one's mama to you.
Yes. That'll jolly well show them. Anyway, well, you didn't get that right, so let's try it again. What's the difference between an eye and an eye?
It's the same question?
Yes, but with different answers. Yeah.
Is it different answers?
Yes.
I don't know.
The Navy this time.
Oh, I know.
Aye, aye, sir. Aye, sir, and aye, sir. Two different things.
Yes, that's the difference. In the Navy, that's kind of the shining example. You know how they separate the men from the boys in the Navy?
Oh,
with a
do tell
crowbar.
us.
With a
Oh, dear. As you know, they say aye in the Navy,
Yeah.
but they also say aye, aye.
Aye, aye,
And there is a difference, and I want you to tell me what that difference is.
Is I mean, yes, as in what do you want? And I mean, so you go, you, I, go and mop the floor. Aye, aye.
Well, basically, yes. I mean, aye is an agreement or an assent. So the captain might say, it's a nice morning this morning, isn't it, sailor? And the sailor go, aye, sir. But he might say, order hands to bathe, and then he'd go, aye, aye, sir, meaning I've heard your order and I will...
Wash my hands.
...carry it out. Well, no, it doesn't mean wash my hands
does
to
it mean?
bathe.
all hands overboard. It sounds like everyone jump in the water.
Yeah, hands, because hands are what you call the ship's company.
All sailors have a bath together now.
Yes, in the sea. Hands to bathe mean there are times when you're in the nice waters and they say, oh, right, let the men swim in the sea.
But don't take your hats off.
Whatever you do.
Because don't take your hats off, the seagulls might need somewhere to land.
Are they singing a song while that's going on?
If synchronised swimmers dressed like that, you'd think more of the sport,
You would,
you?
wouldn't you?
They get on TV more, that's for...
And also, you could combine it with Total Wipeout. Because you could run across the top as they're doing the synchronised swim.
More eyes now. Why won't this woman stop staring at you?
What? She's...
Yep.
She's only human. Well, she's got her needs like anyone.
Are we being suggested to say because their eyes are following you around
Yeah, they
the
do.
room?
No,
Follow you around the
they
room.
actually... I mean, not they don't literally follow you around the room, but that experience is wherever you are in relation to that painting, she is looking at you.
What if you're behind her? Behind the painting? That only works on paintings of owls, surely.
There are other paintings. What's the most famous painting in the Wallace collection in London?
You know you're looking at the wrong person, don't you?
Yes. Certainly.
Lee, you wasn't sometimes your eyes are following me around the room.
Certainly.
I honestly thought someone was stood behind me then.
It's the... I think I might know this.
Yes, Jimmy?
Is the Cavalier? Is it the Cavalier?
Yeah, the Laughing Cavalier.
The Laughing Cavalier.
By Franz Hals.
Yeah.
Very good. That has the same quality as well. I mean, it's true of a lot of portraits.
Well, surely it's true of any painting where the person is looking at the artist. It's not unique to that painting, is it?
No, it isn't. No.
Any painting where the subject is looking towards the
It's looking
camera, for want
straight
of a better
out
word.
is the point. The strange thing is, if you have a painting where someone's looking down, even if you get down to where the eye level is, it will never look at you.
You would look mad in an art gallery doing that. Look, he's looking at me!
Look at me, look at me!
Stand up,
But
you
it doesn't look at you, that's the thing. You only look at you when they're looking straight out like
Well,
that.
this
It's not
is
like
because...
that in Scooby-Doo, though. Scooby-Doo, right. There's
Yeah.
always somebody behind the painting, isn't there? And they
Oh,
really
that's
are.
true. And the eyes
They really are
moving.
following you
In
around.
those horror films,
Yeah.
yeah exactly.
It's like, if you were to look at me now,
Yes.
and I walked over there, and you carried on fixing your gaze forward, you wouldn't be looking at me. So you would think it was possibly true of the painting. But you're not looking at the eyes of the painting, you're looking through the eyes of the artist. So wherever you stand, you're looking through the eyes of the artist, not through your own eyes. Good night.
That's rather beautifully put.
Except that Stephen is three-dimensional and the painting is two-dimensional.
Yes,
so
the
that
painting-
doesn't
exactly.
work. Yeah.
But because I'm looking at you through my eyes, so if I walk over there,
Yeah.
I'm still looking at you through my eyes, so it doesn't work. but I'm not looking at his eyes, the subject's eyes, am I? I'm looking through the artist's eyes, and they stay fixed at all times.
Sorry, can I just ask you...
So it's like bending light. It's like having a telescope that bends round, and you're doing that looking through the artist's eyes.
Do you know what? In a really nice way, Lee, I'm going to say I don't think you've fully understood it.
Have you changed the word nice to patronising?
Well, I mean...
And you're very kind with the word fully, because I don't think I understood any of it.
Anyway, we've got this little example of a sort of optical illusion here. So if you photograph it in the right way, as you're about to see, the eye plays extraordinary tricks on you. So there it is. This is Einstein. There he is in profile. Wow. And there's the inverted bit. But hello, your eye tells you that's poking outwards. And yet it isn't. That's the inside bit. And your eye refuses to believe it until you get to that.
That's great.
Oh, you're twisting my melon, man.
Isn't that extraordinary?
Why does it do that? Why?
Well, it does that because your brain is programmed to recognise human faces. And it's one of the first things babies do is look at faces. And you expect to see a face. And even though you know it isn't a real face, your brain fills in the...
I did it again.
It's an astonishing illusion.
Does this, Stephen, does it only work with Einstein? Would it work with another man?
It would work with any human being. It is really creepy. It's amazing, isn't it?
But it's done it. I can't believe it did the same trick twice.
I know, the point is...
Right, listen, we're not going to fall for it this time.
And yet...
Okay.
No way, not 3 times on the run.
Outside. This is going to be inside, Lee.
Inside.
It's outside. How do you do it?
Wow.
How do you do it?
It's so clever, isn't it?
He's so clever.
It is literally... We literally filmed this. I mean, you can see... That's all it is.
This is a great trick. I might cut my head in half and scoop out my brain.
What a wonderful thing. It would make the most wonderful blancmange or something, wouldn't it?
Are we going to bother with the rest of the show? Because I could happily just...
Watch it go.
I mean, it's lovely chatting and everything, and I love what we do, but let's just...
You're hypnotised.
Have you got any others apart from Einstein?
No, I tell you what we can do. We can make the Queen happy or sad.
Oh.
We've got a £5 note. You can do this with your own £5 notes, but we'll give you the demonstration.
OK.
There it is. You do a little fold.
This is £5. Do you remember when they ran the Derby? Her horse, Carlton House, came. It was winning, he's winning, he's going to win the Derby. Oh, bollocks. Came third and a Frenchman won.
Does it only work on a 5, though? Does it work on a bigger money?
I think it'll work on most
Any
denominations.
money?
Yeah.
And will it actually work on the Queen if you tilt her?
It will also work on the sovereign herself.
Is that why she looks so sad when she's bowing? Not that the Queen bowed that much, does she? Well, not, she's probably never bowed in her life, has she?
No, I've met her, yeah.
Do you think she's ever bowed? Does she bow?
She does, yes.
Another thing is to find out where and how we look. And there is a whole science called gaze detection. No, I do not.
don't even look at me.
Yes.
Oh, it's a science, is it, Stephen?
It's actually a dar, I believe.
No, not the gaydar. Gaze detection. Right. G-A-Z-E. And their tests obviously done between men and women in the different way they look at bodies. When women look at a human being, they look at their faces. When men look at a human being...
I know this.
Yes. Yes, Lee. I'm afraid they look at their faces and their groins.
Their personality.
Yeah. And their groins. And the American Kennel Association, even more disturbingly, found that when human beings look at animals, women look at the dog's face, men look at the dog's face and genitals. There's some things you can't hide. And gaze detection is most important commercially, though, for what?
For the new idea that I've just had of writing advertising slogans on ladies' groins. We're going to be rich, Stephen. We're going to be rich.
It's not just ladies' groins. Men look at men's groins.
I'm afraid they do. That's the point. Yeah.
You wouldn't get much of a slogan on a chihuahua, would you?
You wouldn't get much of a slogan on me, never mind the chihuahua.
Oh, no.
Why, though? Why do boys look at dogs' genitals?
This is news to us. This is news to all of us. There's not one man in the room thinking this is a bit of observational comedy. Go, that's right. We're all going, what?
You may not...
Look at dogs' genitals?
You may not know you're doing it, but you do it. These are what the experiments have shown. It's most useful in merchandising in supermarkets, basically to see that there are certain areas in any store where people are automatically drawn, and therefore they're the most valuable, and therefore the items that go on there are the ones that are most being pushed.
So if you really wanted to sell something to men, you should have a beautiful woman walk past and you'd look at the things that are right by her eye, and she's got to have a dog with her with large genitals.
Yeah. Well, yes, you're conflating the various things that I've said,
I'm
but
still
in an
horrified
interesting
by
way.
men looking at dogs' genitals. Do they do the same with horses?
Sandy, probably.
It is news
We don't.
to
Horses.
men. I'm telling
Horses
you.
don't do anything for our self-esteem.
Yeah.
I went to a wedding in a beautiful country church, and it was in the middle of fields and so on, and the couple were having their picture taken, and not one of us had noticed that there was a horse in the field just behind the happy couple, who had the biggest area of expertise I've ever seen. And that's all you can see in the photographs. They couldn't actually crop it out. It was so large.
Well, we must move on. Charming as this is, the way to get the eyes to follow you around the room is to paint them looking straight ahead. Next, a question about infancy. Which best-selling children's author has something to say on rabid dogs, suicide victims, slaughtering cattle, and how to tie your shoelaces?
Aye, aye, aye!
Yes, Steve.
Katie Price.
It's a wild stab in the dark. And
That was the title of her second book.
Was it how to slaughter cattle?
Yeah?
Yeah. This has probably sold 150 million copies since its first publication.
Sorry, is it in the children's book?
It's a book written for children, yeah.
Look at the boys looking
Which
round at
part
the
of
dog's
Timmy
genitals.
are you looking at? He is. Dick, that's Dick there on the left.
Dick.
Dick, Anne and Julian.
Yeah, Julian
and Dick
and
is
Anne.
looking at
They're
Timmy's
both.
bits.
Girls, eyes forward, boys going, hello.
You see, even he did blighten you. So,
It's an old English book?
published in the Edwardian era.
We're looking at the name of the book or the author.
The name of the author
Around the time
was
of Graham,
Robert,
Graham?
later Lord Baden-Powell.
Oh, the Scouting for Boys.
Scouting for Boys is the right answer.
Scouting for Boys. It's
Yes.
something on suicide.
It has. It has an amazing entry on suicide. Maybe you'd like to hear it.
I would love to hear it.
When a man has gone so far as to attempt suicide, they don't count women for some reason, a scout should know what to do with him. In a case where the would-be suicide has taken poison, give milk and make him vomit, which is done by tickling the inside of the throat with a finger or a feather. In the case of hanging, cut down the body at once, taking care to support it with one arm while cutting the cord. A tenderfoot, which is scouting for novice...
Hard. They make that sound very simple.
It does, doesn't it? A novice is sometimes inclined to be timid about handling an insensible man or dead man, or even seeing blood. Well, he won't be much use till he gets over such nonsense. There you are. Slaughtering cattle, advice to young boys on how to slaughter cattle. If you're a beginner in slaughtering with a knife, it's sometimes useful to first drop the animal insensible by a heavy blow with a big hammer or the back of a felling axe on top of the head.
Kindest thing to do, really.
Stopping a runaway horse?
He doesn't give advice on that, does he?
He does, yes.
Lie down.
That would stop the horse.
Oh, no, they don't tread on you.
No,
Something like
it's
that.
Oh, I know, Play Dead.
How would that stop the horse?
I'm thinking of
punch it on
ferocious
the
grizzly
nose.
bear again, aren't I?
Now, what you don't do is
that's
stand in front of it waving your arms. That's the mistake to make. What you should do is go to the side and basically just ease it towards the side of a wall or the side of a house
Oh, yeah.
and then catch
What,
the
when
horse.
when it's running,
Yeah.
you ease a running horse to the side of a wall. Don't worry, lads, I'll just ease this running horse to the side of
Yeah,
a
it
wall.
will see you out of the corner of its eye and it will be pushed towards and it will slow it down naturally, according to Baden-Powell.
Give us a hand. I can't. Uncle Pete's hung himself.
What about saving someone who's fallen in front of a train?
Oh, don't...
Oh, well, I know this. You ease the train up against the wall.
If the train is very close, lie flat between the rails, make the man do the same till the train passes over, while everyone else will be running about screaming and excited and doing nothing.
You're supposed to jump on the track with him?
Yeah.
And push his head down?
Yeah, keep
yes,
lie
I'm going to
flat.
do
Does
that,
that
yeah.
work, though? Is there such a big gap between
think
the wheels
some
that you...
It
people
does
have
in
done that.
movies, but I wouldn't be the one to try it.
That'd be great if you hung yourself and then a scout cut you down and you went, oh, well, don't worry, I'll jump under a train.
And again...
He's here again! All right, mate.
I was once given a book. It was given to women in the 17th century, and it was advice for young ladies, and the advice for the marriage bed. It says, of the marriage bed, we can't speak of a husband's appetites, so we will describe it in terms of food. And what it said is you must feed your husband whenever he's hungry. You must feed him a variety of meals, or you'll soon find he's eating next door.
I like this book. Was it called The Good Old Days?
Goodness gracious me. Well, with that in mind, here's an initiative test. What should you do if you were to meet a friendly jackal?
Well, I know where my eyes are going.
Do they use their friendliness to lure you into a terrible trap?
Well, they sort of do.
But how can it be friendly? I don't understand the concept
That's
of...
the point.
What does he do?
They're only friendly under one circumstances, because they're wild animals. They're not tameable like
If you're
normal
offering
dogs.
them the children.
No, if they have rabies.
Oh.
One of the symptoms of rabies in wild animals is that they become very docile and they'll approach humans and look rather submissive. And the great mistake, of course, would be to sort of pet them. What we think.
Is the hint not that they're frothing at the mouth, usually?
They don't always froth at the mouth, unfortunately, so you can't always tell.
I did a trip for the BBC in which I canoed the Zambezi, which I don't recommend. You get a condition I can only describe as trench bottom. It's very, very I was told all the way down to avoid all dogs because of rabies. That it was a very dangerous thing. And I was very surprised to see that most of the local people in canoes had a dog with them. And I thought, is that nice? They've all got a pet. But it turns out that's not the case. They've got the dog in case they're attacked by a crocodile.
Oh.
So what they do
And they
is
throw
they
the
throw the
dog
dog
at the crocodile.
They throw the dog at the crocodile.
There's
the
a
crocodile
peace offering.
That's a sort of a tapas. And...
My God.
And sorry, and did your boat have a dog, or did they just...
No.
They had you,
No,
and they went, well... We've got a small lady from the BBC we're using. Don't tell anyone. Have a top swing.
If you meet a friendly jackal, you should probably give it a good kicking to be on the safe side. The next question requires a bit of intelligence. Who finished off Russia's greatest love machine?
Aye.
Boney M.
Well, you...
Oh, I can't believe that hasn't gone off.
To some extent, right.
How's he got away with that?
Yes, it's amazing you got
Are
away
we
with
talking
that.
about Rasputin, isn't
We
it?
are talking about Rasputin.
OK, so let's go through the lyrics. This is all they know about. Rah, rah, Rasputin, Russia's greatest love machine.
Lover of the Russian Queen. Yeah.
Yes, this is how I learnt history.
Yeah.
If it doesn't rhyme, it can't be true.
Do you mean who killed him?
Yes.
Because we don't really know.
Oh, yes, is it that moment?
Well, except everybody tried, didn't they? There was a prostitute who
I
tried.
like the way Sandy led us into that. We don't really know, we all do it together. But I do, you fools!
There's a man who's given credit for it, who claimed to be responsible,
Prince-
who was Prince Felix Yusupov.
Yeah.
It seems historically that he wasn't personally responsible for it. He claimed to have poisoned him several times, and the poison didn't work. And
then they shot him.
Then they shot. There's Gregor Rasputin, and he was just plain shot.
But except that it
in
goes
the
on.
forehead.
It goes on, Stephen, because they tried to poison him, and then he was shot, and then he was drowned, and then they got him out of the river, and they decided to burn him. And my favourite bit, which is not true at all, I'm sure, is that he then sat up in the fire.
Yes, I know. It was all part of kind of demonising this extraordinary man. I mean, what was his importance to Russia? Why was he worth killing? Do you know anything
he
about
had the
him?
ear of the Tsarina.
Because he had the ear of the Tsarina, exactly.
I think he had more than her ear.
Yeah,
Well,
that's possible.
there were rumours, certainly,
If that song is true.
If their song is true, he certainly shagged a lot of women because he had a peculiar theological belief that the more you sinned, the more holy you were, which is rather handy theology. But he basically had the freedom of the palaces. And this was around the time that Russia was about to join the First World War. And he tried to persuade the Tsar and Tsarina not to go to war with Germany. So one of the countries that had a great interest in the death of Rasputin was Britain, because we were at war with Germany and we wanted at least half the German army to be occupied on the Eastern Front fighting the Russians.
He doesn't look like a love machine,
It so
does he?
happens the last bullet that went into the brain of Rasputin was from a gun that could only have come from an MI6 operative.
Oh.
We don't know if, in fact, it was a British plot. But certainly it benefited Britain that Rasputin was killed because it kept Russia in the war for that little bit longer.
He must have had a good chat-up line, because if you saw him at a party, you wouldn't think, I bet he pulls by the end of the year.
But anyway, the point was, Prince Yusupov arranged a party, and he claimed in his autobiography, in which he gave cakes and drinks to Rasputin, which were filled with cyanide, and he didn't seem to move at all. And then they stabbed him, and then they shot him, and he got up again. So then they eventually threw him into the river, and they found when his body was exhumed that he had drowned. But autopsy showed that this just isn't true.
You know what? If I was at a party and they gave me cakes full of cyanide and then they stabbed me, I'd leave then. I would make my excuses no matter how rude it appeared before they got the gun out. I think I'd go, do you know what, I've got an early morning. I've got a thing.
Well, what about the durable Mike Malloy? Have you heard of him? Now, here's a man who really wouldn't die. This is a very extraordinary story. The durable Mike Malloy. We're in the age of Prohibition, and we're in New York City, And we've got a gang of criminals, because obviously anyone who runs a speakeasy is a criminal by definition during Prohibition, and they hit on a scam. They thought, we'll get some drunks, we'll get them to sign life insurance forms to our benefit, and then we'll just feed them so much alcohol that they'll die, and we'll get all the money. And what can go wrong?
Had they never met Irish people before?
That's the problem.
They were
They ran out of
bankrupt.
booze.
So
That's what happened.
owner Anthony Marino hatched this plan.
We're gonna
Got
pick
this
up.
Irishman, he was Irishman, called Mike Malloy, and they befriended him, they plied him with free drinks, and they got him to sign 3 different life insurance policies amounting to nearly $2,000, which is a lot of money in those days. After several weeks of free booze, they started to get a bit impatient because he wasn't
Kept
turning
singing
the
the
hair.
same songs.
So they started adding...
God, he's doing that one again.
They started
Oh, daddy boy.
Seems
the
tipsy.
pipe.
They started adding antifreeze. He collapsed a bit, but he kept coming back for more drink. So they then gave him drinks that were filled with turpentine, horse liniment, rat poison, rotten oysters in wood alcohol, and sardines mixed with carpet tacks.
Do we have any record of what he's... Oh,
None of this
thanks very
had any
much.
effect.
I
Yeah.
suppose if it's on the house...
Yeah.
He's downing that.
So next, they got him drunk, they stripped him naked, this is midwinter in New York, and they poured 5 gallons of cold water on him before dumping him on a snowbank. If you've ever been in New York midwinter, it is seriously cold. It gets to minus 20 degrees
Why
sometimes.
didn't they just shoot him?
I think a bullet hole might have been...
Yeah, it might have been a bit of a giveaway.
Oh, I don't know. I think naked on a mound of snow is quite a giveaway,
Well, he was drunk.
isn't it? Drunk having sex with a snowman.
Yeah, that's all right. But the police found him, and he turned up the next day saying, "You'll never guess what happened. They found me in Central Park on the snow naked. I don't know how that happened, but they took me to a hostel and they got me these nice new clothes." And so he carried on drinking, and they were really getting desperate. They paid a cab driver $150 to knock him over. After 2 attempts, they left him sprawled in the road, awaiting news of his death. Several weeks later, he came fresh out of hospital, turning up looking for a drink. So finally, they challenged him to a rigged drinking contest. They got him really, really pissed and then pushed a gas hose in his throat and gassed him to death.
Oh.
So they cheated.
Yeah.
But a few months later, don't worry, they started squabbling amongst themselves. And they all went down the river to Sing Sing and got fried in the electric chair.
Yeah.
The whole
And
gang of them.
The thing that I find interesting about that story is when you said they put a gas hose in his mouth and cheated,
Yeah.
the audience went, oh. But before that, when they were trying to kill the man, you were going, well, that just sounds like bloody good fun. And then the gas hose, you went, yeah, that's not playing straight.
No, it's not cricket. Not cricket.
It's an interesting morality you're working with. Take a good, hard look at yourself.
There he is. Well, that's the story of durable Mike Malloy, a hero of his time in some
Did he
ways.
tell you that story?
No.
And he's here tonight. Comes in naked, full of gas. Oh, they didn't get me, you know.
Actually, he's up there.
Now, how many things beginning with I are there in this picture?
Now, are we looking at insects?
We are, Alan. You're spot on.
So we don't know.
No, I think they will know. I think,
Oh,
I think it's
they
going to
are
be like
gonna
a square metre of sky and there's going to be 100,000 insects.
There's billions. I mean, millions and
We
millions.
couldn't count
almost.
it.
They take a square kilometre and they use little entomological radars to see how many there are. And the fact is, high up in the air, at all times, there are billions of insects.
So did they find this on the first space shuttle when they didn't have windscreen wipers because they weren't going we're really high and then they went, this is...
The early days of flight, Lindbergh and various others, they started to do tests and they put sticky things on, because they're thinking, why are there insects so high up? As we got to go higher and higher. And the record was they found a termite at 19,000 feet.
It was on an aeroplane.
No, he wasn't going up the point, he was stuck. Yes. 30 million large insects, which is larger than a ladybird, were discovered by this radar. But take into account the smaller insects, like aphids or parasitic wasps, which outnumber the large ones by a factor of 100 or so, you're talking about a serious quantity that are constant in fact. Oh, there's like an insect belt around the world. So how many insects do you eat a year while we're on the subject?
Not on purpose, you mean?
Not on purpose.
Are you inhaling them all the time?
Well,
Or
yeah,
do they
they're-
get stopped by your systems?
There are a few myths on the internet that, you know, most people might eat 8 spiders a
There's
year.
Well, the
Of
myth
course.
is that when you're sleeping, spiders
Right.
crawl into your mouth.
Please tell me that's... Please tell me that's not true.
It is
Don't
not
worry,
true.
it's not true. It's hedgehogs.
You wouldn't like
chance in life.
That wouldn't be so bad. You'd know it was coming.
There's an oft-quoted internet thing about it being £1 a year, which is probably overdoing it. But to give you an example, in the USA, there are laws about how much insect matter can be sold in food. Right?
I would think so.
The average jar of peanut butter is legally permitted to contain 30 insect fragments per 100 grams.
Well, that's what makes it crunchy. And get the smooth stuff, there's nothing in it.
You're not allowed any in the smooth, are you?
And 1 rodent hair.
No.
There's also
That's an allowable limit.
There's a weird thing on food safety where there's an acceptable amount of faeces allowed in food as well.
That's right.
Which is really distressing.
Yes, I'll give it to you that. Tomato juice is allowed to contain 10 fly eggs or 2 maggots from the Drosophila fly per 500 millilitres. Ginger is allowed 3 milligrams of mammalian excreta per 100 grams. Fig paste is allowed to contain 13 or more insect heads per 100 grams. Ground marjoram, the kind you find in a little spice jar, can contain 1,175 insect fragments per 10 grams.
Pot noodle, do what you like.
The point is there are allowable levels of tiny bits of insect in most food.
They should
It
put it on
certainly
the
wouldn't be
ingredients.
pounds a year, but we have bits of insect inside us whether we like it or not.
They never write that. You know when the ingredients on the side of things, because people are obsessed by calories and what are the ingredients, does it have any E numbers in it, is it fresh, that whole thing.
Yeah.
They never write
Mammalian excreta.
Yeah, tiny bit of shit in this. I mean, not much.
No.
But your recommended daily allowance of shit is tomato juice.
Crap. Yes.
Yeah, they contain a bit of crap.
Now, eyes front, eyes by, general ignorance up ahead. What can you tell me about the lifespan of this lobster?
Aye.
I don't know, but look at the size of the fish he's just caught.
I don't think the fish was that big. I think he's given it all that.
Yeah.
In theory, a lobster can live forever. In theory.
Yeah.
It's not one of these, is it?
Yes, it is. The point is you can't tell the age of a lobster.
Just don't know.
All day. Nobody knows.
So you're saying you can't tell the age of a lobster?
No.
Well, they shed their actual... the whole skin
the
comes
whole
off, the whole
exoskeleton.
case.
Did you say lobsters can live forever?
Well,
in theory, we don't know.
Yeah.
The trouble is we don't know, but in theory...
Yeah.
And because they're benthic, because they're so far down on the ocean's floor, they may be giant submarine-sized lobsters for all we know, but we've never seen them.
yes, and they have a special sort of protease-type DNA enzyme called telomerase, which basically replaces lost DNA during cell division so that their cells remain young and pristine each time they divide. Unlike with us, where they just get flabbier and flabbier. The largest on record was caught off Nova Scotia in 1977. It was, 3.5 foot long from tail to
3.5
claw.
foot? That's a lot smaller than a submarine.
Yes, it's a lot smaller than this studio. It's a lot smaller than many things, but it's the largest lobster that's ever been caught.
But Sandy did say
did
they
say
could
the size
be
of
as big as
submarine.
submarines.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I missed that
That's
bit.
all right, Steve. I
thought you were
I
just
didn't
being
just randomly say 3.5 foot. I've got an interesting fact about 3.5 foot. Much smaller than a submarine. Back to you, Stephen.
Sorry.
Feed that with your interesting fact. It was relevant to what you said. That would be a bonkers way to try and express.
I've got slightly too used to you saying rather stupid things. One of them, and I apologise on bended
What, you mean
knees.
stupid things like lobsters can live forever and grow to the size of submarines? That kind of thing. That kind of
What
nutty
makes sense
thing.
in the picture is that it's red.
Yes?
It shouldn't be red.
Why not?
Because it's in the water, it should be black. They're only red. Are they not only red?
You thought it was dead. No. The vast majority of lobsters are a sort of darkish colour with little bits of sort of iridescent-y colours on them, but you can't get red ones. Have you ever seen a blue lobster?
I'm not falling for this again, Stephen.
Have you?
I don't think I have seen
Would
a blue
you like to see a blue lobster?
Oh, here we go again. Go on.
No,
Is it going to hurt?
No, have a look behind you and you'll see a nice blue lobster. Look at that.
Oh, yes. Wow.
Just every now and again you get a really blue lobster.
No, I just think BP have got a lot to answer.
They've been sprayed by a vandal.
It does look like it. But Sandy was quite right about this business of detaching itself from its old shell. And it does that 25 times the first 5 years of its life. And each time it does, it grows by 50%. But it's a really odd business, and it's quite dangerous. It has to detach itself from its old shell. it has teeth inside its stomach. And they're part of the exoskeleton. So the lobster has to pull out the lining of its throat, stomach and anus every time it gets rid of its shell in order to keep that part of itself.
I've had hangovers where I felt like that.
They also, rather like the people of Doncaster, they communicate with each other by urinating.
Hang on, what's Doncaster?
I mean, there was a TV crew on a Friday night, and there was a lot of weeing all over the place.
It used to be like that at Wembley in a cup final.
That's not...
Oh, that was horrible on the terraces when it used to...
It used to rush down
go
the
down
terraces.
the terraces. You know that thing where they get the champagne glasses and do that?
Yes, exactly.
That's where they got the idea from.
Or chocolate.
All bubbling at the bottom.
Because in America you can buy a Stadium Pal. A Stadium Pal, do you know about
Yes,
this?
is this
Baseball
a little
game.
thing
It's the
you can
things
pee
you attach to yourself and it goes into a bottle attached to your leg.
Oh, how clever.
And they've now developed one for women, which I think it looks a bit more like a gravy boat. I'm not really sure.
Now with
That would be
wings.
quite good for long journeys in the car.
There was one for the car, though, isn't there? There's a thing you can...
You can pee in a
into
bag.
the car. Yeah.
You pee in a
You
bag.
can pee in a bag anyway, then no one's stopping you.
If you're not allowed to use a mobile phone in a car, you're not allowed to urinate in a
Well, I
bag,
think you
surely.
pull over.
You pull over, why don't you get out of the car and go in the tree?
Well, you
Go
might
in a
be...
tree?
I don't know.
In the tree. Against in the tree, against the tree. I don't mean carry a woodpecker around with you at all times. Tap hole in there for us. Nice one. Fill it in and on your way.
I really need to pee now. We've talked about
Now
pee.
you've seen it. Oh, not long.
I'll hang on.
Why do you always need a pee?
I drink loads of coffee before the show.
Prostate.
I drink like pints of coffee. I'm run on caffeine.
OK, let's get on with it, and then you won't have to pee.
Want that?
Don't do that to him, that's cruel.
Which side is it?
He can't tell.
Which side do I kiss him? Get it the right way round, Jimmy, for God's sake. Don't do it the wrong way round, be like Wembley again.
Don't you dare.
Do you know, I never thought I'd see Einstein in that position.
You're not so clever now, are you?
Suddenly it's P equals MC squared. So, the fact is, it's impossible to age a lobster. What would they have called this shop in the olden days?
Well, I'm guessing not an old pork pie
Yes.
shop.
How
do you say... too easy.
How do you... Yeah,
How do you pronounce it, you mean?
how do you pronounce it? Lee.
Ye old pork pie shoppy.
Oh, no. It's not... That's not pronounced ye.
OK.
It's pronounced... Yeah?
Yay!
No.
Old porky pie shoppy.
No, you said it.
the,
It's the. Why is it the?
I think it's just the way they wrote it down, isn't it?
Well, it's because it's actually... The letter is not a Y. It looks like a Y, and they used Ys when printing came in. It's an old English letter from Anglo-Saxon called the thorn, which is the letter for a TH, like a Greek theta. And when printing came in, a lot of them didn't bother to make a separate thorn. They used the Y because it was so similar. So when they were writing the, they would put a Y in. But they knew to pronounce it the. And that, because much as we do in text and tweets these days, it's been very common for human beings to abbreviate. And they abbreviated that to YT, that. And so whenever you see in old churches ye this or ye that, or you see a ye old pork shop, it's actually the.
What about oldie?
The older, you don't pronounce the silent D on it either.
Shoppy?
Or shoppy. It's just
I haven't got one
the
word
old
right. Here we
pork
go,
pie
I've got
shop.
one. I've got one.
Yeah.
Pie.
Yes! Spot on!
Get in.
Yes, get in.
Now, how do you say that tricky one in the middle?
How northern is that? If someone's just flicked onto this show and say, oh, look, Lee Mack's on, and you just go pie and there's a round of applause.
In which war did both sides fight under the Union Jack?
Ye Second World War.
Both sides fought under the the Germans...
I wanted to get a gagging about ye.
Oh, I
Couldn't
see.
think of any other wars. I'm panicked.
only war-
I panicked after the ye. Because what's happened is I've said the ye, it hasn't got a laugh, I think back it up with a fact, and I've gone in with the worst possible war. Everything about the joke was wrong, historically inaccurate. Everything about that was totally terrible.
But the explanation
Can only
was brilliant,
apologise.
I have to say. Which one was most likely to have both sides
English
fight...
Civil War.
Not, I'm afraid he was... No. They hadn't really... it hadn't come into existence as a flag by then.
Is it?
The
The
American War of Independence is the right answer, yes. Because the British flew the Union Jack, or the Union flag as it was then known, and George Washington designed a Stars and Stripes, only in fact the canton, the important quarter of the flag, was the Union Jack. So you can see an example of an early American Union flag with the Union Jack in its corner.
So that was the American flag.
The stripe, the stars, is Betsy Ross hadn't made that yet.
That's right. There is one state in America that has a Union Jack still in its state flag. Do you know which state that is?
I would say Alaska.
Who are you going to ask? Sandy?
Hey!
Yes.
Kentucky,
I
is
don't
it?
know, but I would guess Virginia for some reason.
No, it's not. It's actually Hawaii.
Oh, is it?
Hawaii has a Union Jack in it. What went up by 57% during the Blitz?
Oi, oi!
Yeah.
House prices?
Was it Mother Brown's knees?
By 57%.
Oh!
They were always up listening to the Cockneys during the Blitz.
Yeah.
Always up.
Yeah.
The birth rate?
No.
Grave robbing?
Crime. Crime went up a huge amount during the Blitz.
Sorry, do you count crime as dropping bombs? Because if that...
No,
If that's listed as a crime, then there was a lot of that
It's
going
not a crime in actual war, in fact, to do that, unfortunately.
Crime?
But no, I'm talking about Londoners' crime, yeah. Mad Frankie Fraser actually said it was just terrible. It was a tragedy when Hitler surrendered, because wartime London was a criminal's paradise, is the way he put it. It was. I mean, all you had to do was get an ARP warden, you know, like Hodges in Dad's Army. Napoleon, all that. You put one of those on, and people would just obey you, and a tin hat with a W on it. And people would actually help them load their cars with stuff they'd stolen. So, here, come here, help me load this car. They go, oh, yes, because you're a warden. I mean, it was
Are you
that...
suggesting that's what the Queen Mother was doing in the East End?
Not...
My granddad was one of those.
Was he an ARP warden?
Well, he says that.
Oh, I'm sure he was.
So was it mainly...
There was
looting?
There was looting, but there's also scams. There was one fellow called Handy who made a claim for his house being bombed out, for which he got £500, 19 times before they caught on to him. And, of course, ordinary people also were committing crimes through ration books. People who didn't think of themselves as criminals were, you know, black marketeering or involving themselves in the black market. But, yeah, generally speaking, it was a very good time to be a criminal because the police and everybody were concerned, obviously, with bombs falling on houses and people dying in incendiary bombs.
Is there truth in the... Because I read a thing about the... Well, the house would be bombed and people would be dead and then people would come and steal watches and
yes,
and things.
I'm afraid so, yeah.
It's really sort of grisly...
I'm afraid it is, because we think of it as our finest hour and, you know, the Blitz spirit and so on, but unfortunately there's always human nature, there's always another side to it. And, of course, there was a huge amount of bravery and camaraderie and communal spirit and so on, but there was also, sadly, the darker side. Now, I spy with my little eye the scores and how interesting they are. In first place, by really quite a long way, is Sandy Toksvig with 12 points. And in second place, with -4, Jimmy Carr.
Oh, very happy with that.
Only just in third place with -5, Lee Mack.
I'll say that. Sorry. That's not gone.
And a proud fourth place with double I -11 is Alan Davis. So it's thanks to Sandy, Jimmy, Lee and Alan. And as Yogi Berra said, you can observe a lot by watching. Good night.
And this new series of QI continues here on BBC Two, Friday at 10. But tonight we've started, so we're just going to keep going with everything you ever wanted to know about the making of QI next.